My apologies for that. I think we've just overcome that technical glitch. So thank you, David. So we're ready to show those two YouTube clips, please. Thank you, David.
Sister. The day Karen was born, I became a sister, and what a journey we shared together with everything that life has presented to us. Throughout our lives, we've shared many laughs, dreams, tears, family times and disagreements, but especially our shared childhood memories. There will never be a relationship quite like the one we had with your sister. One of my earlier memories are the bedrooms Karen and I had to share when we were children. All the police houses we lived in never provided enough bedrooms for a family of 6, and the bedrooms were always very small. Consequently, we always had to share a small bedroom. There was an imaginary line between our 2 beds, and woe betide whoever stepped over that line. Karen's side was always a mess, and my side was the opposite. Our childhood habits never changed. My love of animals was foisted on Karen in our small bedroom in the police house in Higgs Road, Mount Wellington. I kept pet white mice on the chest of drawers we both shared, and according to Mum, these mice were not sweet smelling. So Karen's side was a mess, and then we had a not nice smell to match. My recollection is that these white mice weren't the only pets that shared our bedroom at various times. Oh, the bliss of it all. Karen was always a bit of a daredevil and very confident at the wheel of a car, so the following, as recounted by our brother Paul, will give an insight into how Karen attained her early driving abilities. When our family lived in Wellington, Dad received notification that the police were transferring our family to Invercargill, which is at the bottom of the South Island of New Zealand. Karen and Paul both needed to remain in Wellington, as Karen needed to finish her Karatani nursing training and Paul was to finish his schooling at St. Pat's College, which meant they needed a car. The car was to be shared between them on an as-needed basis. Mum and Dad loaned Karen and Paul the purchase price of $40 to buy their first car, and it was a black Austin 10, and I suspect it was the price that attracted them. This Austin car had a wind-out windscreen and a back-wing bonnet, so that gives an idea of the kind of car they now both co-owned. It had drum brakes that had a habit of fading on the way down the many steep hills in Wellington. First gear didn't like staying in, so 3 hands were required to start on any hill. The wipers worked in response to the RPM, so the slower the car went, the slower the wipers worked. Not ideal in the city of Wellington. As Wellington is a hilly city, it worked in their favour, as they often needed rolling down a hill because the car didn't like cold starts. They also had to reverse up some of the hills that were too steep for first gear, so any car after that was a dream. When Karen and her family moved to Australia to live, I vividly remember my visits over there, and when out and about with Karen, she would skid around corners knowing she was freaking me out. Oh, to skid around one more corner with Karen at the wheel. A voice I loved is still. A place is vacant in my heart which can never be filled. You will always be close in my heart until we meet again, my little sis. I miss you now and always will. Lots of love today, tomorrow, and always from your little sis. You have so earned your eternal rest with our Lord Jesus Christ, and it is a huge comfort knowing that you are now in His perfect loving care.
I remember many a time when I lived in Pecorino, Karen and I hearing that my mum and dad were getting ready to go home and it didn't suit us, so we would escape the house, jump on Karen's old white rickety bike and she would double me down the road. Oftentimes it was down to the big pike further around Edgewater Drive and big water plant there, and I could go a little way across, but I was a bit of a scaredy cat. Karen was much braver than I was, and she would scarf her across it and then come back, and then we would sit around for a little while and chat and laugh until we thought that mum and dad might really get angry if we didn't go back anytime soon. As we got older, we got closer in a different way. I guess, when you're having children, and she had the beautiful girls, Emma, Sarah and Rebecca, and then I had my boys, Jeff, Jonathan and Badger. Actually Scott, but no name for him. And whenever we get together, and with my sister as well, we always think about the story when Karen was visiting us down here in Cambridge, and we had a swing seat on the end of our deck. And Karen always used to me about the swing seat. Don't know quite how she did that, but she had a bit of a knack for getting in the force. Anyway, she'd be on the swing seat and we'd just be having, it might even be a earnest chat. And then she would just swim in and pick up the glass of wine off the table there and swim back and have a good drink and swim back and put it down again with such grace that you almost didn't know she had done it. It was just a hilarious thing to watch. It was really good. Karen used to always tell us she knew exactly how much to throw a child and she could drink with all the meds that she was on. And so we just said, okay. She really liked tea coffees as well, but she liked them at a particular temperature. And many a time I'd been out with her and her coffee was given to her and she would take a little sip and go, I really need that degrees, please. I just don't like coffee, but she liked hers really hot at a particular degree. So put on her, she knew what she wanted and she asked for it. I remember getting ready to go out sometimes, and it would take Karen a really long time to get her eyebrows right. It was a very tricky thing, and so we just used to go there like half an hour extra before we actually wanted to go so that she could get that done.
Yeah, so those are some of Karen's funny little ways that she ate, and we've all got our own funny little ways, and I remember hers with such fondness and such tenderness. And also her giggle when we used to have our little giggle fest, those ones where you just can't stop laughing. And suppose you're not even sure what you're laughing at. You start off and then you end up laughing at each other. And she'd have tears streaming down her cheeks. And, we could hardly catch our breath. And, that was so good. I really miss that. Karen was probably the most faithful woman I have ever met. I learned heaps and heaps from her, and I will always miss her and always love her.
Hi all, Rebecca here, Karen's youngest daughter. I have so many funny stories and things I could share about when I lived with Mum, but I've chosen one particular silly situation. I will show this clip at the end, but first I wanted to tell you something that I know was really important to Mum. When I went down to visit her just before she left us, I asked her at one point when it was just us in the room if she was scared of dying. At this point in time, she was barely able to stay awake, let alone speak or communicate. But in that moment, she looked me right in the eye and without a second of hesitation, she said, "No," strongly and clearly. I have to say, I've always admired her complete lack of fear and disregard for death. She always was a bit of a rebel. Death has been swallowed up in victory, and that's the assurance that those who truly live and follow Christ have. That this life isn't the end. As it says in 1 Corinthians, "O death, where is your sting? Where is your victory?" We have hope, peace, and joy because of what Jesus has done. And on the flip side of that same coin, it's the same truth that when yielded to brings complete freedom in this life. Freedom to be able to lay your whole life down and abandon all for others, just as Christ did for us. I'm eternally grateful for the truth, which is and has been a firm foundation in my life to trust and stand on as everything else falls away. So, as you all know too well, Mom absolutely loved being in front of the camera. She loved it about as much as she loved cockroaches and cookies. So naturally, I found this really old clip that I know she would absolutely be both laughing at and cringing at the same time. And don't feel sorry for her. I warned her multiple times and she decided to call my bluff on us. So one day Mum suddenly started wearing these awful blue hairy high pants around the house. Truly awful, like she wore them all the time. I tried so many things to encourage her to get rid of them. I hid them, I lectured her, I laughed at her. Then one day I said, "If you don't get rid of these hideous pants, I'm going to film you and upload it to YouTube so the world can see them." Being a person of my word, it's still up on social media today. Now, the other reason I chose this clip is because the last thing you'll hear is her laughing. Love to you all, and to repeat my last words to Mum, I'll see you soon, Mum. I love you.
What? I freaking do.
Hi, my name is Anna, Karen's eldest daughter. Well, it's hard for me to comprehend that Mum is gone. I'm heartbroken. Words can't adequately express my love or do justice to Mum's life, so I'll just say a few things. Mum's life was difficult. As most will know, she was trapped in a body that was beset with much pain and suffering. Despite this, she pushed through and consistently prayed for us three daughters and for many other people throughout the years. She wanted everyone to have a relationship with God. She used to tell me that Jesus was my best friend and that he cares for me like no other. Well, she was right. Mum taught me many things. Her life was a testimony to me of perseverance, faithfulness to God, and persistent prayer, despite the odds being always stacked against her. I wish I had more time with Mum and that her grandchildren could have been in her life, but Mum is now enjoying her eternal home in heaven and will never again experience pain, suffering or torment of any kind. She's at peace finally, and this brings me peace. Thank you, Mum, for all that you did for me. I will always love you, and I'll always miss you. Every time I call, you come running, running. Every time I call, you come so. Every time I call, you come running, running. Every time I call, you come so. Every time I call, you come running, running. Every time I call, you come so. Every time I call, you come running, running. Every time I call, so.
So after those beautiful words from those that are very close to Karen, her siblings and her children, I'd like to call on Sarah to share the eulogy this morning. So thank you, Sarah.
Oh. I wasn't going to do this. I wasn't going to cry because I've done a million speeches and I've done my son's funeral, and so I'm gonna get through this. First of all, I just want to thank everyone that came today. I really appreciate everybody from far and wide, and Debbie and Gerard that come from Coffs Harbour, and everyone that's watching online. So I just appreciate everybody for being here. So Mum, Karen, was born on the 21st of October in 1956, born in Rotorua, New Zealand. She was the second oldest, and she was the second oldest. She had one older sister, Christine, followed by two younger brothers, Paul, only being 10 months younger, and then her youngest, Tony, all very close in age. Her father was a high-ranking police officer in New Zealand, which meant they moved around the country frequently, never staying put. Her father is still alive in Auckland. Her mother was a stay-at-home mother who passed away in June 2010. Most of what we heard about her life was the mischief she got up to as a kid and a teenager. Being that her father was a high-ranked police officer meant, especially in those days, that they had to be sneaky and careful when up to no good. I remember Mum telling me a story of when she needed to get home one day, so she asked a police officer for a ride, and he did it, but swore her to secrecy as he too would get into trouble. But he also wanted his boss's daughter to get home all right. Mum left school and went on to study to become a Karatani nurse. She graduated with distinction, getting all-round best nurse. She absolutely loved being a Karatani nurse. She adored babies and was incredible with them. She was an amazing help to me when I became a mum myself at a very young age. I couldn't have done half as good a job without her. In June 1977, Mum married my dad, Stephen. She was 21 years old. They then moved to Auckland, New Zealand, 6 months, New Zealand. 6 months later, she fell pregnant with Anna, who was born in 1978. After Anna's birth, I was born 13 months later in 1979, and Rebecca was born in June 1985. Mum had the worst morning sickness with all of us. She vomited from dawn to dusk. The doctor told her she was fine and she was only pregnant. But as we all know, these days she would have been hooked up to a drip to get fluids into her. She would have been in hospital. Despite all this, she had 3 healthy children. Mum, unfortunately, always seemed to be poorly in some kind of way. Mum and Dad stayed in Auckland until they moved to Wagga, which is about 6 hours north of Sydney. Dad moved out in 2007. Mum stayed on to where she helped me with my disabled son, Kyle. When Kyle passed away in 2014, we all parted ways for a year. Jamie and I moved down here to Leeton, and Mum moved back to Auckland for a year. She lived with her dad and brother and really treasured that time. She spoke so highly of her father and how much she loved him, and how he'd become such a gentle and sweet man in his older age. Mum moved to Leeton just before Emma, my daughter, was born in 2016. She was officially retired by then. Her health had started to deteriorate by then. We decided she needed more care, so she moved in with us. We had many scares with seizures that wouldn't stop to a broken back and shattered shoulder, but it was the fall in July 2023 that was the beginning of the end for Mum. I want to be completely and utterly honest about Mum and the realisations I've come to and why I feel I have to say this that might help others with her journey and why it is not in vain, why her journey is not in vain. I always said I'm never going to be like Mum. I was staunch about that. I didn't like the way she stayed inside and sat around, not doing much. I didn't like the way that she didn't seem to care about her health or herself. I didn't know why she didn't embrace life to the fullest. I knew she had health issues. I knew they must be behind why she didn't want to do these things. But I knew in some way she was depressed. I didn't know the extent of her depression until I started reading the piles of writings, from diary inserts to poems that she wrote. She was an amazing writer and wanted to write a book one day. She talked about it often, but never got the strength to write one. Every piece of writing I was reading was full of despair and sadness, but with each one at the end, she would express her love for God in a beautiful way. She would always express how only He knew her, only He got her through the days. The more I read, the more I felt guilty about thinking of these things, of how I never wanted to be like Mum. If anything, I want to be more like Mum now. She had a cross to bear. She kept going. She loved God her entire life. She never gave up. She never complained. She lived a life of pain and suffering, but you would never have known it. She won the race. I now respect my mum for the journey she travelled. She was faithful to the very end. When I think about it, I don't know anyone who has suffered like she did and never complained. She's someone we should all aim to be like. This is an area I will try to be more like. Here's a small piece of writing that I found only this week. This seemed to sum up what her life was like the entire way through. It's called How Could I Forget? It was written in 1984. Parched, dry and seemingly lifeless. That's me. That's my life. I need more. Things are just one endless circle. The days flicked by fast enough, and that's okay. Life rolls on with its normal traumas, and even that's okay. But the empty, ringing hollowness inside, the wondering about what it's all about, with no satisfactory answers, the void inside that won't be pacified, try as I might, and won't be ignored. That's not okay. There's a sense of aloneness and loneliness, because at grassroots level, it's what you're all about, the source of motivation for living. Somehow goals have slipped away and that vision is blurred, and now what? We're back to where it's all about. We're back to basics. What we should never have left. Remembering the one who saved us, remembering the one who gave us life. When we forgot that we were one, realising He's been there all along, at my right hand, waiting for me, but not pushing me. Waiting for me to get tired of me, and I am. And now all I can do is apologise and reach my hand out to Him, because He's been there a long time. And I've been looking the other way. I couldn't see Him, but He didn't want to press me or pressurise me. I just had to realise what I came to realise 5 years ago, once more, that life doesn't work without Him. Why did I forget? Now I remember. So that's just one of many poems and inserts that I found of Mum's, which is pretty heavy. As most of you know, I cared for Mum over the last few years. The last 6 months were cruel to her, but despite it all, she had a great sense of humour. Before she had her fall, I would encourage her to do a few small jobs, unstack the dishwasher, bring in her plates and put them in the dishwasher, etc. One day in particular, I found her unstacking the dishwasher, and to my horror, she'd hung the cups on their hooks, but all the way around in different directions. I was like, Mum! As I started putting them all in order, she started laughing. Gotcha, she said. It was moments like that that I remembered the mum I remembered who Mum was and her personality, as her personality was disappearing over the years due to the radiation she had on her tumour in 2002, which fried her brain, literally. That's what I always said, it fried her brain. I appreciate the little jokes she did, and I never forgot them. Mum was a prude as we grew up as kids, but as she aged, her sense of humour aged like a fine wine. I could say most things that some might find inappropriate, and she would have a good laugh. I always told her we would put her down if she was a dog, and she thought that was hilarious. Some of the nurses in the hospital looked at me like I was serious, but having a dark sense of humour really kept us out of the valley during the hard yards. Mum had amazing friends. Her friends seemed to be the light during her dark times. Unfortunately, some of them have passed away. Some of them moved away from Mum, and herself, Mum, had moved to Australia here in Leeton. I would like to acknowledge Mum's friends. I know she loved them deeply, and they seemed to get her through some of those dark times. There's something Mum told me over and over that I feel I need to share here. Years and years ago, she had a dream, which was a lot more detailed than I'll tell you about, but that she was taken to a hot, dry desert. Can anyone say Leeton? But God told her she was going to be okay. God told her that He would take her out of this world before the end began. She never feared the end of her life. She always had assurance she wouldn't have to witness how horrible this world would become. Now she's left Earth, I'm interested in seeing where this world will go. Despite my tiredness I felt at times when caring for Mum, it was the greatest of honours to have been able to care for Mum, especially the last 6 months. I felt my compassion grow beyond belief what I ever thought was possible, and my love for Mum deepened. Every single day, as she couldn't walk, she could hardly talk, she couldn't feed herself or do much of anything for herself. She still never complained. She became something that she never wanted to become, but she still smiled and still tried. Lastly, I want to acknowledge my mum for the mother that she was. Despite the grief, the depression, anguish and pain she was a good, solid and faithful mother. I appreciate her prayers. Without Mum's constant prayers of God, do whatever it takes, but please keep them safe. Who knows where we would be now, as we had quite a few rough years. I want to honour the woman Mum was. I want to honour how she loved and trusted God, how she was the one I looked to for guidance, even up until her memory faded. She always had advice. She always listened without judgment. She always loved her family deeply. She adored her grandchildren, and she loved us all. I love you, Mum, and I miss you already.
Thank you.